In this screencast, I will highlight key points from the reading assignment in our text, Looking at Movies, and discuss how they apply to this week's film, The Godfather. First, let's make a distinction between active and passive viewing of films. While one of the great things about films is how we can sit in a dark movie theater and be drawn into the world of the film's story, characters, visual spectacle, in passive, sometimes escapist ways, in this class I'm asking you to look at films differently. By stepping back and developing a critical eye about the messages being conveyed by the film and learning about the formal elements of film, you can become an active viewer. Key to becoming an active viewer is to understand the difference between a film's content and its form. By content, we are referring to what the film is about. What story is being told? A plot summary is a description of a film's content. Film form relates to how the film is constructed to tell that story. Editing, cinematography, acting, narrative, sound, mise-en-scène are elements of film form. Keep in mind that nothing in a film happens by accident. Every inch of a film's visual composition or mise-en-scène or the sound score, the editing, are all designed in ways that convey meanings and messages related to the story being told. Let's look at an example of film form and content in the visual arts. The content, or the subject, of the three following sculptures is a male figure. As you can see, they each depict a male figure, however, they differ in terms of film form. The materials, color, texture are all different, and yet they all speak about a man, therefore conveying different meanings, mood, tone, and implications about what kind of man each might be. Let's now look at how director Francis Ford Coppola uses some of the elements of film form to tell the story of The Godfather. Looking closely at the first few scenes of a film is a good way to get an idea about both its form and content. In the case of The Godfather, what we see in Scene 1 compared to Scene 2 are extreme contrasts in terms of lighting, sound, characters, cinematography, and more. The film begins with a slow dolly back where the camera ends up behind the shoulder of the Godfather. This is our first impression of him, the dark silhouette of a man who is being addressed with reverence in a darkly lit office. By the way, pay close attention to how each character in a film is introduced. The context, the lighting, who the character is with, what the character does and says, are all designed by the filmmakers to give us impressions and clues as to what's to come. After solemn darkness of Scene 1, Scene 2 explodes with festive sound, music, brighter light, outdoor setting, colors go from blacks in Scene 1 to more pinks and whites in Scene 2. The shots follow different family members as we meet the main characters. Here Coppola is constructing the themes that are developed in the film. The juxtaposition of family values with a world of corruption and violence. He uses film form to set up patterns that convey messages and meanings related to these themes. In particular, one classic segment of the film is constructed with parallel editing. This is a situation where the film cuts between two different lines of action that appear to be happening at the same time. What is fascinating about this technique is how the meanings of one line of action inform and spill into the other. In the case of The Godfather, we go between the baptism of Connie's son, for whom Michael has agreed to serve as godfather, and the killing of mafia family leaders. While the priest and attendants are performing the sacred rituals of the baptism, the killers are preparing their guns and rifles in a similarly ritualistic manner. While Michael is declaring his belief in God and swearing commitment to the church in ways that speak of holiness, the blessing of a newborn child, and the dawn of a new life, the film cuts to a man being shot in the head, a man shot in bed, and other scenes that are clearly about ending lives in violent ways. We can't help but realize that by giving the orders to his men to kill the family leaders, Michael has stepped firmly out of the position as a non-violent family member to be baptized, so to speak, into the position his father once held as the Godfather. This is a great example of how film form element parallel editing serves to convey the themes told by the story or the content of the film. Another interesting line of analysis, as we will continue to address over the semester, is the portrayal of gender roles. In The Godfather, say as compared to Juno and other films, think about how women are portrayed. Where do we meet the women? How are they positioned in relation to the violent world of The Godfather? How do the male characters in The Godfather compare to the male characters, for example, in Juno, like the character Bleecker? We will pursue these and other lines of inquiry in the coming weeks of the semester.